April 29th, 1945. Moosburg, Bavaria. The rain had stopped, but the mud still gripped American boots as Sergeant Jack Mercer led his squad down a farm road toward a prison camp that looked too large to be real. Then the wind changed. The smell hit first. After that came the silence. Thousands of men stood behind barbed wire in the gray dawn, so thin they looked carved out of smoke and bone. Torn British coats, French caps, Soviet rags, bare feet in the mud, hollow eyes fixed on the road with the kind of fear that had already survived too much to trust hope. Private Billy Carver stopped cold. "My God," he whispered. A prisoner at the fence lifted both hands and shouted in broken English, "They kill us tonight." Another dragged his finger across his throat. Then a captured German driver, kneeling in the ditch with his wrists bound, said the words that froze every man on that road. "The SS have orders. If your tanks get close, they shoot the prisoners before they leave." For one long second, no one moved. Mercer looked at the sea of faces behind the wire and felt the truth settle in his chest like iron. This was not a rumor. This was a clock. And every minute they spent waiting felt like another prisoner already falling somewhere unseen behind those barracks in there. "Get Lieutenant Hale," he said. Lieutenant Robert Hale came running, radio in one hand. He reached the rise, looked through the fence, and stopped in the mud. The prisoners saw the American insignia and pressed closer. One British officer in a filthy greatcoat tried to stand straight. "Please," he said, "don't wait." Hale scanned the perimeter. Towers, barracks, a main gate. Enough room for machine gun fire if the SS panicked. His company was stretched thin. A reckless charge might start the massacre. "Who told you about the executions?" Hale asked the German driver. "An SS captain," the man said. "Last night." "Why tell us?" The prisoner looked at the camp, then at his shaking hands. "Because this war is over. For everybody except them." Medic Frank Rizzo was already at the fence, passing tiny sips of water through the wire to a Dutch prisoner whose lips were split and bleeding. "Slow," Rizzo said. "Just a little." The man took the water and started crying. Mercer stepped beside Hale. "Sir, we don't have enough men to surround that place." Hale keyed the radio. His report went up in clipped bursts. Large POW camp. Estimate 10,000. SS threat credible. Immediate danger. Request armored support. Request assault authority. Static answered first. Then the reply. Hold position. Confirm estimate. Support moving. Do not provoke execution. A single shot cracked from inside the camp. Everyone on the road turned. Somewhere beyond Barracks 3, a prisoner disappeared from sight. No screaming followed. That silence was worse than the gunshot. Hale lowered the handset. Mercer, Towers. Nolan, East Side. Green, South Woods. Rizzo, keep anyone from crowding that fence. Yes, sir. The next 2 hours crawled. Green came back soaked. South Woods occupied. Before noon, they found a Czech laborer hiding in a drainage trench. His name was Tomas Vilek. Through broken English, he confirmed the warning. Records burned. Selected prisoners marched south. The rest shot if Americans approached. How long? Hale asked. Tomas looked at the wire. Tonight. Maybe before night. Billy Carver swore. Then we hit them now. With what? Green shot back. One half-track in prayer. Carver took a step toward him. Mercer blocked it with one arm. Enough. Nobody feared the fight. They feared getting 10,000 helpless men killed by making the wrong move. At 1,400, scouts brought in an SS sergeant named Karl Brenner, bruised but rigid, carrying himself like orders could still hide what he had done. Hale stepped in front of him. Were you ordered to kill the prisoners? Brenner said nothing. Mercer hit him hard enough to turn his head. Sergeant, Hale warned. Brenner straightened. Slowly, smiled through blood, and said, You are too late. Rizzo stood from a crate of bandages. Keep talking like that, and you won't leave this road standing. Brenner looked toward the camp. They are already dead. The words settled into the mud like poison. Hale sent another report upward. This time the answer changed. Forward elements of 3rd Army were redirecting. A senior commander was coming personally. The rumor moved before the confirmation did. Patton. They waited through another gunshot from inside the camp. Then another. Sunlight faded into a dirty late-afternoon gray. Hale looked at the towers, then at his watch. If support isn't here by dark, he said quietly, we go in anyway. No one argued. At 17:30, the jeeps arrived. Officers stepped out first. Then General George S. Patton descended from the lead vehicle with deliberate calm, polished helmet dull beneath the clouds, ivory-handled pistols at his side, expression unreadable. He did not ask for introduction. Patton looked at the wire. He looked at the towers. He looked at the men behind the fence who seemed too exhausted even to cheer. The road went silent. Hale saluted and gave the report in clipped sentences. Prisoner estimate. SS positions, captured sergeant, execution order, limited manpower. Patton listened without interruption. Then he said, "Bring me the SS sergeant." Brenner was shoved forward. Patton studied him for several seconds, not with rage, but with something colder. "Were you ordered to kill those prisoners?" Brenner kept his chin high. Patton paused. "Look at the fence." Brenner hesitated. Patton's voice stayed calm. "I said look at it." The SS sergeant turned. 10,000 faces were staring back at him. "Yes," Brenner said. Nobody moved. "Who gave the order?" Patton asked. "The commandant." "When?" "Last night." "When were you to carry it out?" "At the approach of American armor." Patton nodded once. "Then American armor is here." He stepped to the map. Officers gathered close. "Simultaneous fire on all towers," Patton said. "Armor suppresses the south woods. Infantry breaches main gate and east side together. Medics forward before the breach. If guards fire on prisoners, kill them where they stand. If they surrender, disarm them fast and keep them away from the wire." "Yes, sir." Patton looked at Hale. "You were right not to blunder in." "Yes, sir." Patton turned back to the camp. "But not 1 minute more. Open it." The assault began at dusk. Machine gun bursts shattered the tower windows before the guards could signal properly. The half-track slammed the main gate. Engineers cut through the east wire, while riflemen covered them from the ditch. From the south tree line came the deeper thunder of American armor crushing the last organized SS position before it could pivot toward the yard. Mercer led the first squad through the breach. He shot one guard reaching for a detonator box beside the gate and tackled another into the mud. Carver dragged a third man off a rifle before he could fire into a crowd of prisoners huddled against a barracks wall. Green kicked open a door and found 2 SS men driving prisoners outside. One surrendered. The other fired once and died against a stack of bunks. Then the shooting stopped. The gate was open, and still the prisoners did not move. Many simply stared, as if freedom were another trick they would be punished for believing. Rizzo ran inside with the medics. Slowly. No rushing. Small drinks only. Translators repeated him in French, Polish, Russian, Italian, Dutch, anything they could manage. A French prisoner stumbled forward, touched Mercer's sleeve, and collapsed sobbing. A Soviet prisoner tried to salute. A British major fainted mid-thank you. Everywhere the Americans looked, there were bodies too weak to stand, burned records, half-dug pits, and faces stunned by the idea that the dying might finally be over. Tomas found a surviving prisoner list among the ashes and clutched it to his chest. "My brother may be here," he whispered. Hale had no answer. Patton entered the camp on foot. No speech. No grand gesture. He walked past captured guards, into the barracks, past the pits, past a wagon piled with shoes and blankets, and things nobody wanted to name too quickly. The room stayed silent wherever he went. Near the center yard, a young American private saw the inside of one barracks and began crying without making a sound. Patton stopped beside him, rested one hand briefly on his shoulder, then kept walking. When Brenner was brought before him again, Patton looked from the SS sergeant to the prisoners filling the yard. "Do you see them now?" he asked. Brenner said nothing. Patton paused. "This is what your discipline built." Still Brenner said nothing. Then Patton turned to the American soldiers gathered around him. His voice remained low. "Remember this," he said. "When the war ends, people will speak of victory as if it were clean. Remember this place when they do. Remember what happens when cruelty becomes procedure and decent men decide not to see it." Nobody wrote the words down. They did not need to. Night fell, but the work only grew. Field kitchens, doctors, water trucks, and chaplains rolled through the gate. Near midnight, Mercer found Carver sitting beside the open fence staring into the dark camp. "You hit?" Mercer asked. Carver shook his head. "Then what is it?" Carver swallowed. "Why didn't anyone open the gate sooner?" Mercer sat beside him. After a long silence, Carver said, "You got an answer?" Mercer looked at the towers, at the road, at the prisoners still alive because help had arrived before the clock ran out. No, he said. Just a warning. By morning, the count was clear. More than 10,000 prisoners had been trapped inside, starving and waiting on the edge of mass execution. 48 hours more, and the camp would have become a grave too large to hide. Instead, the gate hung open. The SS had failed, and the men who arrived in time would carry that day for the rest of their lives. Some remembered the gunfire. Some remembered Patton's calm. Some remembered the smell before they saw anything at all. But most remembered the silence. The silence of men too weak to celebrate. The silence before Brenner confessed. The silence inside themselves when they understood that war was not only about defeating an army. It was about reaching the people someone else had decided were no longer human. On that wet road in Bavaria, conscience arrived before the executions did. That is why 10,000 prisoners lived to see another morning. What would you have done? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more World War II stories where humanity, war, and difficult decisions collided, make sure to subscribe.